Exxon, BlackRock, Raytheon. We know the standard corporate threats. They extract resources, they lobby for tax breaks, they sell weapons. But they operate like a loaded gun on a table. They are dangerous, certainly, but they stay completely inert until someone else decides to pick them up and pull the trigger. Palantir belongs in an entirely different category. This $400 billion data contractor doesn't just wait for orders. Over the weekend, they pinned a sweeping 22-point manifesto to the top of their corporate feed. The document reads like a drafted state policy memo. It explicitly calls for a universal military draft. It demands the rollback of post-World War II demilitarization in Germany and Japan. It argues against international treaties for autonomous AI weapons. And in point 21, it declares that certain cultures are, quote, dysfunctional and regressive. This is not theoretical posturing from a tech CEO looking for engagement. Palantir actively provides the target selection AI used by the Pentagon, and they build the functional data layers for domestic immigration enforcement and the IRS. When they publish a list of sweeping political demands, they already control the infrastructure required to enforce them. Major media outlets largely treated this document like a spicy book promo, completely missing the scale of what just happened. You don't ignore a policy roadmap from a private company deeply embedded inside your government's nervous system. To see this manifesto for what it actually is, we must look back at the blueprint that built this company over 2 decades. It reveals a highly calculated pipeline, moving from fringe ideology and compromised funding straight into the heart of state infrastructure. The extreme political demands we are seeing today aren't an accidental byproduct of their software. The ideology is the actual product roadmap. It starts at the top with Palantir's chairman and largest shareholder, Peter Thiel. In 2009, he published an essay stating bluntly that he no longer believed freedom and democracy were compatible. He has spent years arguing that democratic processes are too much of a barrier to ambitious individuals. That philosophy is heavily shaped by Curtis Yarvin, a prominent blogger directly bankrolled by Thiel. Yarvin's central political program advocates abolishing the United States Constitution entirely and replacing the presidency with a corporate CEO king. This inner circle didn't stay on the fringes. Thiel poured roughly $15 million into J.D. Vance's 2022 Senate campaign. Vance, who openly cites Yarvin as an influence, is now the vice president of the United States. History shows us a highly consistent pattern here. Authoritarian movements gain immediate traction when a wealthy capital class decides that a democratic parliament is too slow and messy, opting instead to fund absolute authority. When Palantir first launched in 2003, traditional Silicon Valley venture capital rejected them. The only entity willing to write an early check to keep the company alive was In-Q-Tel, the venture capital arm of the CIA. But as they scaled, they absorbed deeply compromised capital. Records show Peter Thiel's venture funds accepted a $40 million investment from Jeffrey Epstein, a serial child rapist. This massive cash infusion arrived nearly a decade after Epstein's first criminal conviction. Keep that specific financial relationship in mind when you read point 18 of Palantir's new manifesto. It explicitly demands an end to the, quote, ruthless exposure of the private lives of public figures. The ideology at work here isn't an abstract thought experiment. They are actively writing legal and social shields for their own compromised backers directly into the public policy they want the government to adopt. Palantir achieved something previously unthinkable. They fused 2 enormous data domains, normally kept strictly walled off: domestic state surveillance and military targeting. Their platforms, Gotham and Foundry, aren't just passive filing cabinets. They are the active layer where bureaucratic and tactical decisions are generated. On the domestic side, Palantir has embedded employees inside the IRS, building a single searchable database containing the tax records of every American citizen. They also power the primary AI tracking system for immigration deportations. On the lethal side, the military relies heavily on Palantir's algorithms. Defense forces currently use their AI platforms to process drone footage and select specific physical targets in live conflict zones. Palantir has moved far beyond simple regulatory capture to become the actual operational infrastructure of the government itself. Look at point 21 of their manifesto, the one stating cultures are dysfunctional and regressive. Because Palantir simultaneously controls mass deportation tracking and lethal drone targeting, their internal cultural rankings carry terrifying real-world consequences. There is historical precedent for extreme ideology meeting data processing. In the 1930s, the IBM Hollerith punch card machine was leased to the German government to index its population. They didn't build the camps. They built the filing system, making roundups ruthlessly efficient. Palantir is the Hollerith machine of the 21st century. But unlike the mechanical punch card tabulators of the past, this massive digital system is deeply armed with sovereign military power. The intellectual architects behind this company have spent 15 years asking for a legal shortcut, a way to suspend democratic rules because they view parliamentary process as too slow for their ambitions. Their software platforms finally make that override mechanically possible. Publishing a 22-point authoritarian manifesto wasn't a PR mistake, it was a confession. This regime is installing itself, through software licenses and federal contracts, a quiet takeover that operates without the need for force. Confessions like this are only given in public when others believe they have secured enough systemic power to be immune to the consequences. They are telling us exactly what they plan to do with our data and our military. The window to revoke their access is rapidly closing.